Thank you. Good evening. Thank you for tuning into the Thursday, October 6th school board meeting. We will start with our roll call, please.
Michael Boucher.
Here.
Kay Knutson. Here. Shauna Manthorn. Here. Kim Farah. Here. Steve Finnegan.
Here.
Kristen Savage. Here. Mark Sherwood.
Here.
Kim McCormick. Here. Brian Boyle.
Here.
All right, if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That was really weird sitting right in front of that. All right. Next will be the approval of the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the September 15th minutes.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any questions? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Thank you. Are there any delegates or individuals? Not hearing any. We will move forward with our current business. So I did want to introduce our new student rep, Matthew LaBelle. Am I saying that right? All right, thanks, Matthew. Matthew or Matt or?
Matt's fine.
Matt's fine, okay. I always like to ask. Matt, if you want to just introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, and yeah, we'll go from there.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt LaBelle and I'm a senior at Timberlane High School. I'm going to go over some of the events that are going on at the high school, middle school, and the elementary schools in the district. Going on at Timberlane High School, Project Hope, which is an organization that raises money for cancer, had their first Play for a Cure week where sports participated in ongoing support for cancer and cancer research. Spirit Week is coming up on the 17th to the 21st of October. The high school had their annual college fair 2 weeks ago, where students could meet with the colleges they are interested in and meet with people that are probably going to be approving their applications. With that being said, college application season is here, and thanks to the school counseling department, the senior class is able to complete their applications on time and get them into the colleges that they are looking at. The Milkmen Improv Group just had their first show in September, which was a great turnout and actually sold out. Parent-teacher conferences at the high school will be held via Zoom on the 13th of October. The school library has started a pen pal program where students write to a fourth grader once a month and connect with them in the district. The library has also started their Adopt a Bookshelf program where students are given an assigned bookshelf to look after to gain community service hours. Key Club has their annual, I believe it's their 5th annual Socktober going on right now, which is when classes compete and bring in brand new socks to raise money for homelessness. Timberlane Middle School, the 6th grade class just had their annual field trip to Camp Lincoln, where they learned team building skills and got to connect with each other. The K-9 unit came to the middle school also to teach students how their department functions and how K-9s work. Sandown Elementary have created a story walk where students can listen to a teacher read a book in stations outside. Pollard Elementary has their annual Halloween parade coming up and 5th grade party coming up on the 28th of October. Atkinson Elementary has started whole school assemblies once a month to get students to connect with teachers and other students. The ice cream social is on Friday night from 6 to 7:30. Parent-teacher conferences will be held via Zoom on October 24th at 1 p.m. Danville Elementary, the 2022 to 2023 school year is off to a great start, with students connecting with staff and students making friends. Students are settling in very nicely and are getting into their routine. School safety is being a main focus in September and continues to be in October. And that concludes.
Thank you, Matt. That's really great. It's great to have you, and we look forward to more updates as the year goes on. Awesome. Okay, next is our policies. So before we go through for the second read, I do have 3 policies that we're looking to waive for first read, which is, well, the policy for waiving is BGF, which allows the school board to waive policy for a couple of circumstances. And the 3 policies are IHBG, JICD, and JJJ. So the reason for board members why we're looking to waive policy is we are out of compliance with these 3 policies. So in order to get into compliance, we'd like to push these through. Push these through is the wrong terminology, but I will say that the policy committee, which met just before this meeting, did go through all of these and recommended that we bring those to the board. So so I'm looking for a motion in order to waive policy BGF.
Make it.
Second.
All right, so I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any questions? All in favor?
What's the motion?
To waive policy,
To invoke policy.
to invoke policy BGF.
Is that your motion? Okay.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor? 9, thank you. Okay, so then I need a motion to adopt policies IHBG, JICD, and JJJ.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any question or discussion? Not hearing any. All in favor? Opposed? Oh, that's okay. 9, thank you. Nope. Excellent. Thank you. So then we have a couple of other policies that will be going for second read and adoption. Policies BCA, BCB, BDE, GBCD, JKA, JLC, JA. So I'm just looking for a motion for second read and adoption.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. Any question or discussion? Hearing none. All in favor? Thank you.
Before we move away from policy, could I ask a question?
Please.
Is the policy committee using the spreadsheet that was developed by Dr. Cochran before he left to prioritize policies that need to be adopted and moved? I just asked that question. I asked that question because I actually did review it, and we're many months beyond where he did that, and I'm kind of surprised that these haven't come to the forefront before now.
Yeah, using a combination of not only his spreadsheet, but as legislation is passing and, other policies are coming up as well. That's part of it. And yes, we were so far behind. I think we talked about that over a year ago or a year ago, right? That we were so far behind. We're still catching up.
For the next meeting, could the board have an updated spreadsheet that shows what the list of priorities are what, on policies and where we are with those some board members have no clue what I'm talking about, I'm sure.
We can update that and provide. Do you want both the original and the revised?
I'd like to see where we stand on it
Okay.
now, and the board, and what's the list of policies that are coming up first? Based on those recommendations that he had in that list.
Okay.
Even further into that, and just to follow up, we had been dealing with the New Hampshire School Board Association to revise all of these policies, and I know they got to a certain point, and then
2019, right.
did they ever finish that review? I think we got
They
it.
made
They did.
recommendations, and
They
Dr.
did.
Cochran looked at those
That's
recommendations,
and that's what the spreadsheet's
and then
based on.
developed a
correct? Okay.
spreadsheet based on that and
I just didn't know if they
highlighted.
finished all,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
they did recommend go
They-
through all
they-
of our policies.
They did,
Okay.
In 2019. So anything that has been revised or needs to be revised since 2019
Is
due
back on
to
the
changes.
ticker.
Dr. Cochran also
He-
reviewed beyond 2019
Yes.
to 2021.
Yes.
So he updated that too.
Yep.
I just wanted to make sure we got everything we had
We
been
did.
expecting for
We
from the
did, from New
School
Hampshire
Board.
School Board Association, and then
I thought we
things
had, but I
kinda-
just wanted to
Yeah,
confirm that.
no, but I think we need to make sure that anyway, I think it'd be instructive for the other board
Yep.
members to know what
It's a
we're
great idea.
talking about here,
When
Yep.
policies are due, yeah, that would be great.
as the board, gets ready to change again.
Right.
Okay, excellent. We'll add that to the next school board meeting on the 20th. Great. Any other questions on policies before we move on? Hearing none. Next is the superintendent's evaluation process. So again, the superintendent did some work on this, and we have a policy in which we have to follow. So typically, we would do the evaluation after, every year. And obviously, our Superintendent Kellen did not start at the beginning of last year. So the question really is to the board, when do we feel as though a proper evaluation should be done, a timeline of that process? Just looking at when an actual effective evaluation should be done. So I wanted to pose that out to
What's
the
in the
group.
contract? Is there a date and anything in the contract?
There's no date in the contract. It just speaks to an annual evaluation. In the past, what was done when we were part of SAU 55 was that the evaluation was done in early October, so that if there was a raise in bonus projected for the subsequent year, that could be put into the budget. So that's when you're looking at the superintendent evaluation, you need to think about where that falls in relation to when the budget development process is ongoing. So, this year is kind of an anomaly.
Right.
The superintendent started at what would be an unusual time, because usually it's July 1.
Right.
So I don't know how you want to handle it for this current year.
I would, again, I would make the recommendation that, that we do an evaluation this year. We're obviously already past, or we're around the time when one would be done. I think it would be beneficial to have an evaluation done in the next 60 days. That would be, I'm one person, so that would be my recommendation. I'm open to hearing what you guys think. Michael?
In consideration what Kim just said in terms of having the evaluation to determine bonuses, if we don't have an evaluation now, how would any bonus be determined? Or would there be no bonus for this year?
Well, I'd have to pull the contract. Do we have a bonus in your contract, or just, no, I thought
Not a
we did
bonus,
away-
there's a maximum percentage increase. So budgetarily, you could, there's a safety net there to budget, say, that maximum increase, or to at least, consider a range or whatever, if that's what the board wants to do.
I mean, you really have till the budget's finalized to do that. So there's a little wiggle room. It's just, when we were part of the SAU, it was done in October just because it was feeding into 2 different districts, so I do think it would be helpful, maybe, this policy was one of the ones we put into place when we withdrew, to maybe alter this policy at some point so that there are some dates that are set into here, so
Right.
that people are aware. Because right now, you're just going off historical knowledge, so.
Yep.
I'm not against doing an evaluation. The other thing with the evaluation, Kelly's not gonna wanna hear this, I don't think, is in the past, what was done is it was done out of the superintendent's office electronically. Brian remembers those days. And the board members would input their responses, and then the numeric responses, and then there was this collated averages, and the comments weren't the comments all anonymous? Or
One
was,
year they were anonymous.
what?
Other years they weren't. I think
So-
it was, I think we're not looking at a CIA director here, so I don't think that's the
No,
way to
no,
go.
I don't either, but I think you do want to do this electronically, I think, because if not, somebody's gonna have to, based on this evaluation, there's a lot of numeric values in here that somebody's then gonna have to take all 9 board members if they're filling this out, and then input it, and then develop a spreadsheet on it. I don't know. I don't know what, maybe it's in the files somewhere, like, there might be a file of it, hopefully, of this evaluation. But the problem is it will not be this one, because this one was developed after we withdrew.
Also, though, along those same lines, in the past, the superintendent they would submit something.
Yeah, in fact,
yes.
My
I would,
goals, this is what
I would
did.
prefer, and my recommendation would be to do some sort of 360 evaluation, which would allow for board members to have their input, the superintendent to have his input, and then others, how we select those others in the district to also have their input.
Well, again, in the past, that's what was done, Brian, remember? SAU staff there was another spreadsheet that came to us from the SAU evaluating the superintendent, so that's,
Yeah, I mean, whether it's building principals,
Yeah.
I think it's really, it's all encompassing, right? Where you
Comprehensive
have, you have, a self-evaluation, essentially the superintendent's supervisors, all of us, evaluation, and then colleague evaluation. And to me, that would encompass the full 360, and we'd be able to have a full evaluation based on that. It's going to be some work, so, and with all the negotiations going on, so maybe I retract the 60 days. But,
well, I think if Kelly or somebody can find the previous survey in the files, I don't think it'll be that hard to adjust it.
okay,
I don't know, though.
yeah.
But I'm gonna go back and please step in if I'm saying something incorrect here, but when we were discussing moving forward, and when you were brought on last January, we kind of talked about the first few months were kind of, I don't wanna say a wash, but for lack of a better term.
Right.
That, it was you kind of being thrown into a situation and trying to get up and running. So part of me says if we're doing that evaluation now, he really hasn't even been in a whole year. So I'm a little hesitant to do it now. How the contract states is, like the cost of living, it is in July 1st. Like that's when we were looking at doing those increases for you, was July 1st of 2023 and then July 1st of
Exactly, yeah.
2024.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of thinking, why would we do the evaluation right now when he really hasn't had a full year and that time under his belt? I'm thinking, I'd like to do it before this board leaves, but before a new board is on, because a new board wouldn't make sense to evaluate him because they haven't had the time. if you're following, but I think to do it now would be premature.
Well, I
I'm
think-
thinking February would probably make more sense.
Yeah, so I think we're talking the same, I think just the timeline's a little different, but I think rather than have it by November, maybe it's February, but I'm not opposed to that either.
How's that?
That's fine.
I mean, I'm just
I'm
looking at
always
your
open to
contract and-
feedback. If
yeah.
you want to create some other system of feedback, I'm always
I'm
open to
I'm
that.
saying the formal
In addition
evaluation,
to, no,
I'm
in addition
thinking
to
makes
that.
more sense in February when you
I
kind of have a
appreciate
year on the.
feedback.
I agree, and that would give us time to perhaps incorporate the 360 perspective. And, you know, do the legacy homework to see whether any of that survives.
Okay. Okay, so do we have consensus? I mean, I don't know that we have to,
I think we put it on the last several weeks to
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 finalize
reach
like
some
a
kind of a
timeline.
decision and
Yeah.
take some sort of action so you all can predict what you need to do moving forward and what we need to do.
Well, I think the key is to get the survey up and
Then-
going, like Kim said, and have it ready and plan to do it end of January.
Well, yeah, but the next step is to see, because I don't even remember what it looks like, is to find the 360 that goes out to the SAU staff and see if it's still pertinent and maybe adjust that.
Yep,
Make certain it aligns with what we created.
So if we can potentially
Right.
find that and get that to one of the next board meeting or the one after that, so we can at least
Review it.
approve
Yes.
that to go, yeah.
okay.
And
Because
then
I
we
don't,
can-
I think it had, the old system had 1 to 9. Our system has 1 to 4.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah, I do
the
remember.
old sy-
I do remember the old system. Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, I don't think we want to go with 1 to 9. I don't know, because I have a hard time differentiating between a 7 and an 8 and an 8 and a 9. It seemed a little,
All right, so it sounds like we're going to gather some information, and I'll work with Kelly on that, and we'll bring the old survey, if we can find it, back to the board later this month. Everybody okay with that?
Sounds good.
Perfect.
Point of clarification, bring the old survey back. The old survey has different questions than the ones that we came up with for our evaluation.
You're talking about two
survey.
different
Okay,
things.
survey evaluation. Yep,
Yeah.
sorry.
Nope,
Nomenclature.
that's okay. Any other questions? Everybody okay with that plan? Great.
I guess one, to Mr. Boyle's point, is there anything in particular as far as a product? And you might need to think about this, but if there's any in particular products that you'd like to see from me to provide to you, please just let me know. If there's something specific that you would like to see it in a particular format.
Great. Will do.
well, normally, in the past, and I know doing my own personal evaluations, I take whatever my goals are and write a short narrative or give products showing what I've accomplished. So I think that would be helpful for the board, if we're looking at February, to have something like that.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Just my thought.
Agreed.
Great, thank you.
All right. Any other questions? Okay. All right, moving forward, the Pollard School donation. So it sounds like there's a donation. Oh, perfect.
Stephanie Lafreniere, our principal of Pollard School, is here to explain this to us.
Hi, Stephanie. Yeah, if you can explain, that would be great.
Sure. First, I just want to say thank you for having me. I haven't had a chance to meet all of you, so it's really great to see you all collectively together, and I'm really having a great time at the school. It's an awesome experience, great community, so thank you guys for bringing me on board. It's a great
Thank you.
opportunity.
Welcome aboard.
Yes,
Thank you. So we're really excited to kind of get back into the swing of things after COVID, get some, more field trips and opportunities for students to learn outside the four walls of the classroom. And we are fortunate that we had a donation brought to us. Dolores Coyle-Quirk, one of our teachers, had run this field trip in the past and had a connection with the Plastow Conservation Committee, and so she had met with me to look into this opportunity. So basically, they have are willing to donate $759 towards a trip for our 5th grade. We were looking at originally in the fall, but I think we're looking more spring. It'll align to the curriculum a little bit better in the spring. We get into life science at that time, so it'll be hitting some of the standards in life science and also in our health curriculum. So we're looking to bring the students on a hike and connect that to, opportunities for learning in the classroom. And the teachers are really excited about this donation, so I wanted to bring it to you since it's above $500.
Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions? All right. Anybody want to make a
I
motion?
would like to make a motion to accept $759 for Pollard School to go on their field trip, their hike field trip.
Great. I have a-
Second that.
all right. I have a motion and a second. Any comments or discussion?
Just a comment that I know that the Pollard school community and families in the past have really enjoyed this particular field trip, and it's been extremely meaningful for the students, so I'm really grateful to the Plastow Conservation Committee for the donation.
It's great. All right. All in favor? 9. All right. Thank you so much and welcome.
Thank you.
All right, next is the high school donation. So, Mr. Peterson.
Good evening.
Evening.
So I come before you to once again ask the board to accept a $2,500 donation from ExxonMobil and the Beatty Group. This is a donation that they've done in the past. For those of you who don't know, ExxonMobil has been working with the Beatty Group at the old Beatty site for some restoration and some cleanups there, and they donate this money to be used for STEM. And we've used this money in the past to buy more equipment, more data logging equipment, research equipment, and we've actually had students working with the Beatty site, going over there, seeing the work that they've done, been collecting samples over there and working with the engineers over there and kind of seeing real world science, and then going back and doing some real world science with the money or with the equipment that is bought with this money. So I ask the board to accept this donation.
All right. Any questions, comments?
No, I'll make a motion that we accept the donation from ExxonMobil in the amount of $2,500 for the Timberlane High School STEM program.
Second?
Thank you. Have a motion and a second. Comments, questions, discussions?
No, I do like it when Mark's here for things like this, though, than what he's been here more frequently
Agreed.
for in the past, so
So do I.
Yeah, agreed.
much nicer, Mark.
All right, all in favor? It's 9. Thank you. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you
It's
very
good
much.
to see you. Next is the annual meeting and election calendar. Hot off the presses. So, a couple of important dates. They're all important, but I assume the more important ones are the ones that are bolded on here. So I'm just going to highlight those. Thursday, January 12th is the public hearing on the proposed budget and bond. So that's Thursday, January 12th, and that's at the PAC, Performing Arts Center, at 7 p.m. And just in case there is snow, it hurts to say that word right now, but in case there is snow, the snow date is January 13th, so that Friday. The next highlighted date is Thursday, February 9th. That is our deliberative session. That is also at the PAC, Performing Arts Center, at 7 p.m. And the snow date of that is Friday, February 10th. And then the last highlighted date is voting day. So district voting is on Tuesday, March 14th. And that's obviously in each town, the voting is a little bit different for times and at different places. But those are the 3 highlighted dates. Is there any questions?
No, but just to make people aware, I think the January 10th date, CBA items need to be finalized by that date, so that's something that, I know we have negotiations going on, so everyone should be aware of that.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
And those have to be voted on by the board. Because it seems to me, I just want to look at this,
I think we need to vote on them by that.
well, we need to vote on it before the I'm just trying to get a feeling of what that week
Is it
looks
before or
like.
that day?
It says by.
I think I think we need to vote on no later than that day.
Yeah.
So we'd have to vote on them at our meeting January 5th, which means,
Or end up calling a special
or
meeting.
call it a
Right.
special
Which
meeting
we've-
on the 9th.
So,
Just trying to, everybody that's on bargaining units needs to be,
well aware of that, because it'd be much better to try to shoot for the 5th.
Yep.
Yeah.
well, it'd be much better to try to shoot for
A day in December.
a day in December. But
But if not, the 5th is really,
that's, the 15th is the last meeting in December.
so,
Yeah, so, okay, so.
it's not very far away.
That's not very far away, so let's shoot for January 5th. Yeah, any questions? It's coming up quick.
Yes.
Up quick. And then lastly, we have an executive summary for a personnel request. So is Ginger or Kelly here?
Both Ginger and Kelly are
Great.
here to
Come on
join
up.
us.
I feel like I'm in trouble when I'm sitting up here.
All right.
Yeah, I was gonna say thank you. I don't know if everybody has met Ginger.
Not sure that we all
So
have.
I'm the new Director of Student Services, so it's nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
Very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. So we are here to look at hiring somebody or moving money, I guess transferring money over. We have students that are placed at charter schools, and we are responsible for their special ed services. In the past, we have contracted out with different SAUs. They have hired staff. We've contracted out with them. The staff shortage has hit immensely, and so the SAUs are no longer able to offer that to us. We can't find, other contracted service providers to do it. If we do, they're very, very expensive. So we're looking at hiring our own people to be able to do evaluations, to do services and stuff like that. We have increased our students that are in charter schools for a variety of reasons, so.
Yeah, go ahead, Brian.
Okay, I'm not sure if you would be able to answer this question, because we have the CFO here, but, don't we have a bunch of unfilled positions in the budget? I believe last year there was maybe $600,000 of positions that were left in the budget. They're not filled. That the board did not, chose to eliminate the flush program. There was $600,000 left. Those are in salary line items.
Because the budget committee did not remove that money.
Budget committee, and if those are gone, my other question is, don't we have unfilled positions that we can't fill? Why wouldn't we reclassify positions before we look into add positions?
We might be able
Yeah,
to.
Maria, why don't you come up to the microphone, please? So, thank you. We did discuss this quite a bit, so, good question.
It's been a long discussion, I think, bounced around between HR, Maria, us, Chris, around and around.
That is correct. We always have open positions in the budget because people leave or people come, or we have paraeducators that we haven't been able to fill that. We can do either or. We can reallocate a position that we have and convert it into something else. This is a special education. We have to keep track of a special education in a very specific way because that's how we report out to the DOE and the DRA. So special education funds are same part of the general budget, but they are special education funds. So I can do either or. If you want to identify a position, we can identify a position that I can convert and split into these two positions because they're not two full-time positions. Obviously, it's a 0.2 and a 0.8. So it's a one position.
That'd be my suggestion to the board, that to reclassify positions, because obviously
Yeah.
you have salary positions, and that is a budget type line item. Then you present your budget to the voters, and I would think you would use up our positions first before we try to move money from contracted services, which contracted services can be for anything, doesn't necessarily have to be a human being. That could be, you can move that money around for non-educators. They're not human beings. If you know what I'm saying? You can use, contracted services can be used for all kinds of purposes. And I believe you have salary line items that are open that might be more advantageous and might make more sense to reclassify, repurpose what's unfilled. That you don't want to get into like budget stories.
I agree, but what Maria's saying is you're talking about special ed is 1,200 lines, regular salaries are 1,100 lines. So you've got to make sure you've got enough in the 1,200 lines to cover these, or you would have to transfer from 1,100 to 1,200
Right.
to cover, because you
So
can't be.
either way, I have to do the budget transfer. If you guys agree to have this position, this personnel, these positions on the budget, I will have to move the money because they have to be coded under special education.
Kim?
Is
Is there a reason that you did it the way you, is
Yeah.
it the reason you're presenting it to the board, the way you're presenting it, aside from what they're saying to change it?
The only reason why is because it's part of the special education budget that was presented to the voters this year. So the special education budget is, like I said, is part of the general budget, but it's a separate budget because it's all encompasses all our special education obligations. So it was presented to the voters as our special education budget. So to maintain that special education bucket, for a lack of a better word, I will move the funds between the contained special education. It doesn't mean that we cannot do it the other way. We absolutely can. Obviously, you guys have to authorize the transfer of the funds because that's how it is. We can do it, yes, but again, it's just to be in the contained special education area. That's basically the reason.
So the contracted services are contracted services in special education
Yes.
already. And you just want to take it out of contracted services of special education and move it to salary line
To
in
salary
special
line,
education.
yes. And
So it's not coming out of a contracted services in the general budget,
no.
it's, or.
And
you're-
Brian, you're absolutely right. Contracted services can be used generally for anything. In special education, correct me if I'm wrong, contracted services are for human capital because that's what we contracted. We contracted people to serve our student population in the special services.
And this contracted services line was paying before, well, that's what we were using out of when we were getting these services
Because
by
we were
going through other SAUs.
Yes, because
So
we were-
basically, we're just same purpose, but just because now we have to hire somebody ourselves, it's not contracted, it's positional, but it's
Right.
still.
It's coming
So
out
we
of
were
the same
paying
bucket
the
that it was coming from
SAUs
before.
that we were
Okay.
contracting with for the people that were serving these students, we were paying out of the contracted services because we were paying another SAU.
And we can no longer do that.
Okay, Kim?
But back to repurposing lines out of the budget, you've got openings in the 1,200 lines, because we haven't been able to hire paraeducators, so I'm still not understanding why there's not enough money in the salary line, in the 1,200 line to cover this. Why you'd want it, I could see later on down the road, like, if you came in March and said, hey, now we've spent all this money, now we're gonna have to move some from the contracted services. But I think it's kind of premature right now, because there's gotta be extra money in the salary line in the 1,200.
We can, like I said, we can do it either way. We can convert one of the open positions after Kelly and the superintendent look through it, the making sure that those most likely will be para positions, because those are the ones that we haven't been able to fill district-wide. If one of those para positions, if we are not gonna need it, or we foresee that we're not gonna be able to hire anybody under one of those positions, yes, it can be, I have to request the transfer again, because the salary line would be a different salary line. So, but yeah, that's fine.
have a
I
question?
can sit down with them and we can look through it.
I'm just, I mean, without seeing the numbers, it's a little, I'm trying to follow it in my head. If you do that, though, if you pull it from the 1,200, correct? we still then have this money sitting in contracted services in the special education budget that's not being used, because we can't contract out. So why wouldn't we use those funds
It's
first?
all within the 1,200 lines.
No, no, the 11,
If we have open positions under the 1,200 line, they will be a part of the 1,200 lines. The purpose of those funds wouldn't have been for that purpose, obviously, because the purpose for that specific service had been under contracted services, because that's what we did.
Right, but
So
but
the
the
purpose of
contracted
the
services
funds-
is part of the 1,200 line. The 1,200 line is the major line. Underneath there, you've got sub-lines. You've got personnel, you've got contracted services, you've got, so,
But I
Kristen,
thought-
you understand when, it's all the 1,200 lines.
I thought she was saying that it was coming out of the 1100, the special education.
No, no,
Those be
no,
going
no,
into
1,200 is, that is special education.
Oh, okay, I'm
bucket
not
that
having
I
the
call-
numbers in the chart in front of me,
So,
sorry.
I guess
I'm
my-
not having a hard time
No,
following.
it's okay, it's confusing, I know it is confusing, it's just, it's like I said, it's, we have the general budget, and special education, I always look at it like it's, because I have to report very specifically
Right.
everything about special education, so is that one bucket, that is part of the budget that, to me, is like untouchable, like.
So,
not-
Maria, I guess my only question would be is eliminating, it sounds like a paraprofessional position, we don't get that back, correct? If you take that position and you eliminate it into two other positions, then that paraprofessional position is no longer there.
Right.
So that would be the only downside. Whether we fill it or not, right, I mean, that's still a position that we would lose. So that would be my only hesitation.
No, we don't lose the position.
Well, you do, because then you repurposed it, but then you now have one less paraprofessional position, because now you've created it into two other positions. Do you see what I'm saying? So you've taken this one paraprofessional position, you've now taken that's gone, and you've repurposed it into two other positions.
You repurpose it for this current budget year.
Right, but
and
that-
then you decide what you're gonna do for the following year. You're not losing the position, you're repurposing it.
So okay, let's follow that logic. If you had 10 open paraprofessional positions and you had, you do this route, you now have 9 open paraprofessional positions, correct? I would assume those 10 positions are in the budget because there's a need for 10 positions, correct?
If they are, yes.
Right? So if you had 10 people come in the day after that we did this, you could only then hire 9. Do you see what I'm saying? You've essentially, you've lost one para.
Well, true, but the probability of 10 people
I-
coming in, I'm just.
I
I'm saying
understand.
that
No,
you
no,
have
no, I
lost the okay, I'll give you've lost the position for this budget year.
Yep.
Okay, but you have not lost the position because it still carries forward into the next budget year.
All I'm saying,
Okay,
right,
that's
all
fine.
I'm saying is that's the law, that's how I look at
Okay,
this, and
I get
I,
it.
to me, it seems as, I just wanted to point that out, that was it.
And if there's a different place to get the money in contracted services,
Why not?
why wouldn't we just get it from that? Is that, right?
That's,
Why wouldn't you repurpose an
Why
open
don't you repurpose
position?
the salary lines? Why would you leave all these empty salary positions?
For what Steve
How
said.
many
Well,
do
if
we-
they're posted, then they're
No.
needed.
We're gonna get 10
Just because we
people.
don't have anybody available for those positions doesn't mean they're not needed. That's why there's a posting.
I
Right,
think
so
that-
there's,
no.
there's a difference between the two. I understand what you're saying, but there's a difference between the two. There's positions that we are still advertising for, we're trying to interview, we're trying to fill. And then there's some that I don't want to say we don't need, things kids may have moved or whatever. So I can see looking at that, but we have, there may be, I don't know, 5 open positions, but we may have 5 needed people to fill those.
Do we still have that 600,000 from FLES?
What?
Yeah, but that's an
No.
1,100 line.
No,
No,
You can
no.
move it, is my
Oh,
point.
you can move
You
it.
can move it.
Those
My point is,
positions-
Yeah, no.
That's gone.
there's all kinds of money here that, in salaries, that no one is even touching.
So that 600,000 that you're referring to, Brian, that's no longer in the budget, because the budget was cut net $2 million. So reallocations were made between the lines as the budget committee
Did not.
direct us.
We did.
They didn't.
Yes.
Right.
They did not.
They did not. They did not
The
remove that
budget was
600.
cut $2 million.
do one per, yeah, thank you.
The lines were different, what the school board proposed and the budget committee proposed. The lines within the budget were different, the amount was the same. The budget in 2021, 2022 was cut $2 million. The lines were different, the school board proposed to eliminate some positions, and the budget committee did it in other lines. But the net amount of $2 million was removed from the budget. And I can give you the detail of what lines were removed.
No. Maria's right on that, but in the default budget, those flush lines need to now come out for this coming year.
So I think we're moving on.
Anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so I think we're just, so I guess the question at hand here is whether we want to take either way, we have to approve a transfer, right? So the question is whether or not we want to take it from the contracted services. Please tell me if I'm saying this wrong. Whether we want to take it from the contracted services or whether we want to take it from an open other position that we would then have to repurpose.
But that's not a transfer then.
It is because the salary line is different. It's a different salary line.
So either way, we're transferring funds. It's just a matter of what salary line we want to transfer them from.
What line do you want to transfer them
Okay.
from?
So I'll take a motion on either.
Before we do that, I just have one more thought about this. So, Kelly, if we were to take this position and then convert it into these two contract positions, right? And let's say there's a need for paraprofessionals. Are there situations in which, when we don't have enough resources, it may drive a student out of district as a result? Or for that matter, will we need to go out of district to find more services, just like we are in this case, contracting more services?
Yeah, I was gonna say paraprofessionals and stuff, we would continue to search for. I think children going out of district is based on a team decision that's based on need, not necessarily a paraprofessional. It may be a higher need than even our staff could do. They may need a different level of service. Cutting a paraprofessional to, taking the paraprofessional money and moving it over to these positions, if that's the route that we go, I just would hope that if I had to come back here and say I need to have money to fill a paraprofessional position, that it would be a very small discussion that we would have, right? Because we're having this, and I want to take money out of contracted services and put it into that paraprofessional. So I think it's a wise suggestion to look there. I just want to be cognizant of the fact that we are actively searching for paraprofessional, to be able to serve our children, and provide their services that they are by law entitled to.
And to be in compliance with what is written on their education plans.
Mr. Boucher, to answer your question directly, yes, that could, in the event that we cannot meet a child's needs as outlined in their IEP because we don't have the resources in place, that could result in an out-of-district placement.
And I guess to further that point, could it potentially be more costly to go in that direction?
Yes.
So the other piece that I just want to put out there, because I just need clarification on this. If the voters went and voted on X amount of positions in the last budget, do we have the authority to add more positions, which is higher than what the voters actually voted on? So I think this probably goes back to what Brian is saying, in that to repurpose positions is not necessarily adding positions, you're just repurposing it. And rather than adding positions, which is not necessarily voted on by voters at this point. Is that sort of what you were saying, Brian?
Exactly what I'm saying.
Oh.
And especially when you have a bunch of positions you haven't filled.
Right.
If we were down to one or two, I'd feel different
Yeah.
about it, but I have a funny feeling.
Yeah.
We got an awful lot of positions.
So so I think for board members, I think it's important to remember that the voters in the last budget voted on X amount of positions in the budget, right? And so if we go and add positions, we're essentially doing that above and beyond what the voters voted for, versus splitting that position into two positions. We're keeping essentially the same number of positions in that line, right? We're just reallocating that particular FTE, right? So knowing that's what I would recommend, because we're staying within what the voters voted on versus adding something different, if that makes sense. Does that make,
It does. No,
It
that makes
does,
sense.
but that money's already there though, too, in a different
Yep.
format.
Yep.
So you could look at it that way too.
Sure, absolutely. I just want to make sure that we understand that if we vote to add the positions and not reallocate it or repurpose it, it's essentially going above and beyond what the voters voted for in the last election. So, but I'll take a motion either way.
I'm going to motion to repurpose a position to allow for the hiring of 2 part-time people.
Second.
Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Sorry.
Oh,
can I just
yeah,
one
additional
other-
discussion.
Several months ago, I think we had a discussion about an entire audit of special ed workloads, staffing. Are we going to see the results of that before we get into the budget season so that we have a better idea of if we need to increase or decrease within those lines in personnel?
So we have some information already for that. We have been analyzing that. Our staff that has needed caseloads and stuff like that. The audit for survey, we're finishing up that piece with UNH right now, but we have some good concrete information for our budget already. We've done time studies, we've analyzed students' IEPs and information.
Great.
That'd be great. So maybe we can look at a future meeting and have a presentation on that, if that's okay.
We have a lot of good information, actually.
Would you even like to see that happen in sections? It'll be a lot of information to digest anyway.
Yeah, we can probably talk about, I think we can talk
Talk
through
about
what
a
that
system
looks
for
like.
presenting that, sure.
All right, so I have a motion and sorry, go ahead.
No,
You got to talk faster.
I'm
No, go, no,
I'm
I'm
just
giving
trying
you a
to-
hard time.
Yeah, no,
make a motion to include the money transfer from what line to what line? Do you need to
I
include that?
think with the motion saying that is to repurpose.
It's repurposing.
That,
Just checking.
That will be sufficient.
I just
Thank
want to
you
make
for.
sure she's covered and
Yeah.
she,
if you want, yeah, I think the word repurpose will
Okay.
give me the
just
permission
making
of.
sure that you're covered.
All right, so I have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed? So that passes 7-2. Thank you. I know that was long-winded, but thank you very much. We appreciate it, and you're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank
All right,
you
moving
three of
on.
you.
The administrator's report.
Want to go first? You want me to go first?
So, 2 quick things to share from mine. Shauna, certainly thank you for the contact for North Shore community. So we made some good inroads with them. They've got some availability for potentially some OTs visiting this year. And next year, some PTs. They always schedule a year out. I was impressed with their organization. They seem like they got a good cap on their ship over there. So we're going to continue to move forward with them. We've also reached out to Granite State College that has had some interns here in the past. That's also going to, I think, move forward in a positive direction too. So we'll continue to keep you updated there. The second thing, just wanted to highlight, is we did have our professional development day for the staff here on the 28th. And certainly Sandy and Lucy and Mark did a tremendous job kind of allocating a lot of training that day. We had over 50 PD sessions that were led throughout the day, and 20 of them were unique and specific to a certain field or a skill or a process. So that served over 700 staff. So quite an undertaking put together that day. Lots of good learning taking place with teachers and administrators by their side. A lot of our folks did some in-house training themselves, so we used a lot of our own staff. We also had some folks that were working with outside the district that are in current contracts with us that also came in and worked with groups of staff as well. So overall, a real successful day and positive feedback from the people that participated.
All right, great. So I need to, I'll start with clarifying. I brought something up about the retiree celebration at the last meeting, and I apologize, I probably confused folks. So I did revisit with the the retirement committee. They are going to invite retirees from 2019-20 at the next retirement celebration, because there were some retirees due to the sort of late-breaking scheduling of that event. There were some folks that did want to attend that were unable to attend, so they do want to make it available for some of those other folks. So it will once again be a collective retiree celebration. And overall, that went very well, so looking forward to that next one. I did attend the boys varsity soccer senior night the night before.
Tuesday night.
Tuesday night.
What's tonight? Yeah, Tuesday night.
The cold night.
The cold night, Tuesday.
It was very well done, recognized all of those seniors. It was a tough loss to Salem, 1-0, but a great event. At the next school board meeting, we do plan on having some representatives from the high school regarding New Hampshire Tackles Hunger, as Matt had talked about. We've had the New Hampshire tackles Hunger Games and other things are going on. There was a barbecue and things to raise money, so we are going to have some of the students that are involved in New Hampshire Tackles Hunger to come on in and do a brief presentation and share some of their experiences with you. I just want to encourage folks to visit our electronic bulletin board, and we will start to send some messages. So one of the things that changed where historically there were a lot of documents or information from organizations going home, or maybe there weren't a lot going, but there were some going home, and in revisiting that policy, we definitely realized we needed to be a bit tighter on what is it that we are sending home either with students or sending home electronically to make sure that we are in compliance with our policy. And so we get notices from organizations about different activities and events, and we have an electronic bulletin board on our website. So we want to make sure that we're messaging folks so that they are taking the opportunity to go and visit that electronic bulletin board to find the information that they might be looking for that maybe historically they did receive in their child's backpack or something.
Chris, how do people get things on the bulletin board?
They send them to our
Just send a
office. It
notice?
goes to Kelly Salovich ultimately, and
Email or hard copy or either or? Email.
email is
Okay. Thank you.
preferred anyway.
I've had a couple people ask and I wasn't entirely sure, so I just wanted to confirm. Thank you.
I have had some meetings. I met with the YMCA, I've met with the Boys and Girls Club, just looking on expanding our partnerships with some of the community agencies and seeing what we can do to, come together with some of these community agencies. What are some of the services and resources they have available and how they can provide for our community entirely. And that's something we'll visit through the strategic planning process as well. We did have our transportation bid opening today. It was attended by STA, First Student, and Durham School Services. We also had letters from two other companies that elected, Butler and Salter. They elected not to submit bids at this time, both of which citing that they just don't have the resources. Well, STA also, their letter was that they could not put forward a bid, but they attended. That just because of the limited resources, the driver shortages, they didn't want to engage in a contract. They didn't feel that at this time they could meet. But they do want to be part of future requests for proposals. So, but we did receive bids from First Student. First Student did bid on in-district special education, out-of-district special education, and regular ed transportation. And Durham supplied us a bid of in-district special education transportation and out-of-district special education transportation. So with those bids, we do need to put together our ad hoc transportation committee to review those bids and move forward with the acceptance of one of those bids and to begin negotiating with one of those or both of those companies.
In the past, the board has made the decision on transportation and cafeteria services. And I'm unfamiliar with
a
the ad
committee?
hoc transportation committee. Those two contracts have always been voted on by the board, right, Brian?
We will double check, but I believe our policy speaks to it, the review of the proposals, the bids, by a transportation committee. That was our discussion today as a group.
I'll pull up the policy.
Then what, do they bring it to the board?
And then
Is that what they did?
And then there would be a recommendation to the board?
That's fine.
Yeah.
I'm just saying
I
that
would
the
expect-
final vote
Oh,
goes
yeah,
to the board.
sure.
Yeah. Well, I wasn't sure
Yes,
from,
no, to review the proposals.
okay.
They're pretty big. I don't think we want to
They're very big.
have the board review the whole proposals.
Well, no, but in the past, the proposals the board has had the opportunity to look at, so you might want to make them available.
Definitely,
To
we
the
will-
board, so.
We
you know,
will
somebody
definitely
might
make
wanna
them
read 'em.
available and provide them.
Mike wants to look at them.
Yeah.
Have fun, Mike.
Would you prefer hard
Means
copy
my kid
or
gets on
digital
bus
where
all
we
the
can
There you
scan
go.
it and we
There,
can
no, I
send
mean,
them to
people
all
might
of
wanna
you?
look at 'em.
Nah,
That's for every day.
Yeah, no.
Mike, I mean, Mike, if you want to be our go-to. And Shauna, yeah?
I'll do it.
Awesome. There we go. Now you
go.
have your transportation members.
We have our two members, and then we'll get our other committee members. Excellent. So, Mr.
Unless anyone
Boucher.
else wants to fight me for this.
I think you're gonna be just fine. Yeah, no, I think, yeah.
I don't think there'll be any arm wrestling.
Yeah, no, I agree.
And that's all I have. Thank
Excellent.
you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Glad to have Matt here.
Yes,
Yeah,
welcome, Matt.
as we are.
Welcome,
Yep.
Matt.
All right, next is the, we don't have a personnel report this evening. So we will go right to committee reports. I will start on this side. Mike?
Okay. So we had our strategic planning committee meeting earlier this, actually, no, sorry, not this week, last week. And we discussed the results of the thought exchange that went out to the broader community. There were 479 participants, which generated 341 thoughts, and there were 10,450 ratings that helped us evaluate those 341 different thoughts. So now we need to go through the process of converting those thoughts into something that's more manageable that we can then use towards generating some ideas and how we're going to move forward with our strategic plan. And just due to the limited time that we had in that first meeting, we're going to continue our discussion on October 17th. And we're going to determine how we're going to move forward with the strategic plan. Oh, and actually, Chris, you might want to speak to the student component.
The student component where we did convert a question to a SurveyMonkey format where students will have the opportunity to answer that SurveyMonkey question while at school. It's optional for the students to participate. It's not a required participation. It's something that they are allowed to choose to do or not.
Chris, were you and Justin going to do a video about that?
We're going to do a video about the thought exchange.
Okay, the information of the thought exchange.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, there was the public thought exchange. We're going to convert that to some sort of presentation for the public so they can get a better understanding of the information that was
Yes.
generated. And just to add, the reason we switched to SurveyMonkey in terms of student services, in terms of the survey going out to students is to maintain privacy in between each student.
Right. Where thought exchange allows each participant to rate the thoughts of others. We talked about this at the last board meeting. That was the concern, and that's why we converted to a SurveyMonkey that keeps each of those students' responses exclusive to them. It remains individual.
Awesome. Anything else, Mike?
Nope, that's it.
All right. Katie?
Safety committee, we are meeting, the next one is the 18th, and we are just ongoing with our safety training, and didn't know if Kristen want to speak anything else to it.
No, we'll start again. Training will start that week. So we'll have some insight prior to that next meeting and we'll talk about that. And I know there were different things that we talked about, changing some of the kits in the schools and things, some upgrading some things and doing some things just to be more prepared should something ever occur. Things of that nature, but no, everything's moving forward.
Great.
So, as Matt said, this is a safety month in the district, and we're always looking at it, but this month, we're trying to really take the bull by the horns and address a lot of issues, so.
Yep.
Awesome. Shauna?
Wellness Committee is meeting on October 12th. It'll be our first meeting, and we're going to do some reorg type things, look at policies and set some goals, so I'm looking forward to that meeting. And then CIP met last week, and we're meeting again the 11th.
Awesome.
Ongoing process with that.
Kim?
Like Shauna said, CIP had a presentation by EEI, who is the company that we engaged to do a performance contract with the district. They've gone through and evaluated the entire district facilities. I don't think they've done grounds, just facilities. We are looking at significant dollars to try to get these buildings up to where they should be. They pointed out that it's been 20 years since there's been like major building projects done. 1997 to 2000, there was a lot of money put into buildings. And so I think the strategic planning committee probably needs to hear a presentation, because we're at the point where we need to start putting a lot more into buildings every year just to stop the deterioration that's going on. Or we need to try to think about how we're gonna push for some building funds. The state has building money, but it's a lot of work, and if somebody's gonna do it, it needs to start now. It's an every other year project, but it's something that we could do, it's something we need to do. We are in dire straits with these facilities, based on what I'm hearing, so. The board needs to be involved in these conversations. It came to the CIP, I don't think it was a bad thing, because community members could hear it, but we need to have a presentation so the board can understand where our facilities are.
So can I just piggyback off that? Because Katie and I also meet with Carl and Maria and Sarah after our safety committee meetings to discuss facilities, and this is definitely something that also was brought up by Carl, and different things that are coming to their attention too by different reports and things that they're receiving. So I highly agree with you that we need to start pulling all that together and start thinking, because realistically, we can't keep, as somebody likes to say, you just can't keep putting lipstick on a peg after a while. It's
Well, you can, but it's like an old car, like at some point.
after a while.
After a while.
It's not, yeah.
Well.
It's not gonna look so pretty.
We're gonna
we
need to do something. I mean, is that an accurate
Oh, absolutely.
depiction of
So,
what?
End of life use phrasing was
we're
was
coming upon
shared
it.
was
We're
shared
coming upon it.
more frequently than I've ever heard that phrase before. So we're
Yeah.
really needing to take a strong, hard look at where our students are receiving their education and.
In the future.
Yeah, just to add to that real quick, Mark, you can agree to this too. When we did the facilities tour, there was very similar themes there as well, in terms of, needed repairs and not being able to keep up with them.
Yeah. I'm just picturing Dean with a graphic on the thing of a pig with lipstick on.
Well, then there you go. But I will say I think our, what we have and our crew that we have is doing a great job.
Yes, they are. They are.
And
They are.
yes, they are beautifying as much as they can, and they take pride in what they're doing, and the reports that I'm getting from again, walking through the schools at the beginning, they look better than I've seen them look in years, just even, and I mean that in a sense of floors were shiny, things were done, and they were more welcoming, even with what we have, and I have to give kudos to our current facilities and staff for what they're doing to keep them looking as good as they can and keep them operating as well as they are under all circumstances. So I just want to
agree.
give that.
And we have been putting money into facilities, it's just not enough.
Well,
Right.
Our buildings are aging, and you can only do and keep up with so much of the current laws and everything else and what we need to do with what we have. So at some point, it's gonna be a reality check, because we do need to do something.
Yeah.
So.
Is the suggestion to have EEI come and do a presentation to the board, or do you think a summary, or what would be your suggestion? Or you can think about it.
I thought we had said a presentation to the
I think
board
they
would
need
be
to do a
helpful.
presentation
Yeah.
to
Yes.
the board,
Okay.
because the board ultimately will approve
Yeah.
the strategic plan.
Having
So we
seen
should-
it, it's extraordinarily impactful, and these are big ticket items that, we don't want to go half-cocked. But again, we're detailing a Toyota with 190,000 miles on it. How many more years are we going to do that for? And, they gave a pretty concise breakdown. Distressing, but, doesn't mean we don't need to all hear it.
Yeah.
And I think the public needs to hear it.
Yeah,
I mean,
great.
people need to, they need to be aware that this is a reality. It's not a wish list. It's a point that at
Yep.
some point we have to do something,
Yeah.
so.
And
Great.
it's a pretty lengthy piece of presentation, so.
Okay.
In terms of time.
So prepare to be here for a while.
Well, we'll
We'd have
work
to
with
do
them on
yeah, we'll
that
have to figure that out, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
to filter it down.
Okay. Super.
Right.
All
I'd
right.
be happy to work with them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Make it a little more
Yes,
succinct.
yes, that would
So
be
Kim
great,
will have
but
the
yes.
cleaver.
That's still a
Yeah.
lot of information.
All right. Okay. Cool. All right. I just realized there's an owl sitting right here. That was a little weird for me.
Really?
Yeah, the first time I
That's the
realized.
first
yeah,
thing I
it's-
noticed when I came, I'm like, we have
it's
an
a
owl.
little
I was looking at you.
frightening. Yeah. I just want to update That's even more frightening. I just want to update, policy committee just met today. We will go back, and we don't meet again for another month, but we'll go back and pull all of the policies and in order of need, and we'll bring that to the next board meeting. So that's all I have.
I don't have anything on committees, but kind of with other stuff. I just wanted to make a comment about what happened in Florida with Hurricane Ian, and we sit here talking about our schools right now, and their schools, they don't even know what they're going to do, the number of schools that they lost, the damage to their schools, how they're gonna do things. Just my heart goes out to that community and whatnot. I have friends that are down there, and they've come back up here. I mean, they don't know when their kids are going back to school, if they are going to, so, you know, it seems like COVID, this, that, there's always something going on, so knock on wood, we're lucky to have our kids in school. I think what we're doing moving forward, and be positive, enjoy every day, because we just don't know. So again, my condolences and heart out to everybody down in that area that was affected.
Mark?
I think everybody hit all the policies before. Advantage of being last, second to last.
It's, you're third to last.
Third to
but
last.
yes, yeah. Kim?
Okay, curriculum assessment is busy. We're moving some curriculum, a couple things to the board for the first read next month. And we got the first read of the program of studies for next year. Mark did a great presentation on that. Not too much to look at, not too many changes, but so we just did our first read. We'll do a second read in November, and then it'll come to the board in December for approval, or for the first read.
Great.
And I went to the New Hampshire delegates meeting on Saturday.
And my chair is like squeaking.
Well, I have to tell you, I was so like, oh, it's a Saturday, I have to do this. It was so interesting. And the most interesting part of it was the presentation by the Monadnock School Board. They were School Board of the Year, guys, so let's step it up, okay? So what...
We were runner-up.
I don't think when. I'm pretty sure we were with...
It's a self-reward.
well.
Yeah, you put yourself in for it.
You
get too worked up about it.
We're with Moses chipping tablets out of stone compared to these people. So everyone got the email from the New Hampshire School Board Association with Monadnock's presentation in it. And it was like, you know, the review. And I encourage every one of you to look at it, because what they're doing with software it's board software. So it's government board software. So they're streamlining all policies, budgets. Everything is so streamlined in this presentation. And from there, this man happens to be a genius, I guess, but he's building databases about policy, about the finances, and they go so far as to, you know, they have an architectural firm that they hired because they were very much in dire straits, just as we are. And listening to them talk, we were not that far, you know, they were just like we are not long ago. And the architectural firm gave them literally here's exactly how here's what you have to do, here's how you have to do it, and here's what it's going to cost. And so that part of the presentation was fascinating, and they've done so much with their facilities, they've done so much with their policy, they've done so much with the outreach into the community, because they've worked with public relations firms. They don't have like a public relations firm, but they feel like every step they make, there's a flyer at a PTA meeting, there's a school board member there at a meeting at a school. At parent-teacher conferences, there are flyers or pamphlets that people can look at to say, oh, this is what our schools are up to. So it was fascinating. I encourage you guys to all look at it. I've given a lot of the information to Ken. I think he's been talking with Chris and Justin about it. So there's a lot of stuff we can do with technology that we haven't really even looked at yet. So I hope to be able to, that was the best part of the whole meeting. The rest was, you know, going through all the, everything else that we all agreed on, you know, and everything, it was great conversations. It was very civil, it was a great group of people. There was like 55 people there, so it was great. And so I actually didn't hate it. I didn't hate the meeting. I was inspired coming out of that
Next
meeting.
year?
I was just
I
gonna
would
say,
do
what
it.
I heard
Going next
was.
year.
I would.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I was inspired coming out of that
Yeah.
meeting.
No,
That
and-
there's so much we could do, and
Yeah.
and just to make it a little bit easier on us, you know, and the public to help them be more involved and engaged and informed.
Yeah. Thank you for going, and, you know, your excitement, I think you had texted me while you were, I think you were
I was
there.
texting Steve, like, well, we could do this.
Just how excited she was, so I knew you were absolutely the right person to be there. And I'm glad you were able to bring some stuff back, and I really look forward to seeing ways that we can help improve based on that information. So thank you
Sure.
for going and bringing that back.
Thank you. Sure.
Brian?
Well, I don't have anything, but I want to piggyback on this facilities thing here. Because I think the probability of getting a $200 to $300 million bond passed is slim to none. So I think the smart thing is this board should be asking the budget committee to increase the facilities by $3 to $4 million per year. Just direct into certain projects. Because I've had brief conversations with people, I have not been to a facilities meeting, and if all of a sudden you have to put $3 to $4 million into some certain structural things per year, that's pretty much what we should be doing, because I don't think we should be counting on, schools a year ago were $100 million. People you hear about Salem and different places they were building.
Yeah, yeah.
In the construction business, I can tell you for a fact, stuff has doubled. So a $100 million school 2 years ago is not a $200 million school. Now, let's think about the odds of getting a 60% passage of that. So it'd be great if you had one, but I think the smart thing is not to, I think we should address it. We have started, as you mentioned, Kim, we've put money in over the last 4 or 5 years, and I guess we got to put a hell of a lot more money in.
Yeah.
And it's crazy not to. It is, when you hear some of these little, I've been hearing about some of these structural things just from secondhand information. I have not been to a meeting, and I think we should address that sooner than later. That's all. And you're in the budget season now. We should be, as a board, recommending to the budget committee to increase those lines.
Kim?
I hear Brian, and I appreciate what he's saying, but I also think that if we're gonna put $3 or $4 million in a year on something like that, then how much was our bond payment a year?
$1 million.
So, I mean, it's not, I'm not saying that we need to go out and get a bond, but I am saying that there isn't just, there's
You gotta
other
pass it,
ways.
But you gotta pass it.
I agree. There's a lot of stuff that has to pass, so we all have to look at it. We can't just say this is it. I'm not going to say that we need to put $3 or $4 million in a budget, and then that's it. Done. I won't say that. There's other ways to go about it. We have to have open minds about it, and we have to be
I
creative.
do have an open mind about it.
I know that your expertise is construction. I know that
I'm
you're.
not talking, okay, it's not just, I have a lot of expertise in construction. I don't have any expertise in building schools. I do have some general construction, and I've got a livelihood of doing it. I'm just trying to pass on here, while I'm sitting here until March, that would be crazy not to put more money at these facilities, instead of just counting on something that, I've been around, I was one of the guys that was pushing that $40 million bond
I don't
a long
disagree
time
with
ago.
you on that.
And we just made it. I'll tell you, it was quite a bit of effort when Timberlane got that bond.
I don't disagree, but I know
That's
that
all.
at every facility tour that you said the same thing, that it's $3
Yeah.
or $4 million, never gonna pass, never gonna pass, never gonna pass. But we've all just sat here and said that our buildings are crumbling around us and we have to do something about it. And maybe it is that $3 or $4 million is all we can do. Maybe that's true, but I'm not comfortable with saying that that's all we're gonna shoot for.
No, I think you need to increase those line items, but we also need to look at the long game.
Yep.
I think we're gonna have to look at the long game for that.
Right,
there's-
and we have to be bigger thinkers than that. We just do, and our kids deserve it, our communities deserve it, and I'm not comfortable with what Brian's saying, and respectfully, not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Then somebody's going to need to start to sit down on this board with the administration, with the building committee. Because to get a bond up and running by next year, I'm not even talking this year, you gotta start now. You have got to start now for next year. If you don't start here in the next month, it's not gonna happen. You're not gonna get any state funding. So I'm more akin to Brian's line of thinking, that you put $3 to $4 million in a year, but you do a lease over 20 years so that you've got $60 million up front that you can spend, and then you start fixing things. That's one of the options EEI is looking at. I could go either way. I'd love to have new buildings. I think it's probably the way to go at this point. But somebody's got to put the work into getting it done, and I don't know. You got to put the work in and you got to sell it. So.
But I think the smart thing is getting the presentation to get the information out there and we're all going on bits and pieces. I mean,
Let's see
you're
the
privy
earliest
to
we can
some
get them in.
information that we're not.
Let's see
So
the earliest we can get them in. They did present both on, patching, how much the Bondo would cost, and, complete repairs and takedown. So let's see, and if you'd like, Kim, we can work together. You can work with them to get the cleaver to kind of fine tune their message for us.
Yeah,
Sooner rather than later.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I'd be happy to work with them, because some of what they presented, I'm like.
Yeah.
This is, I want people to understand the real issues, not, the entryway.
When we lock eyes, when we mutually roll our eyes at the same time, yeah, right.
Guess we're not gonna hear that part. are we?
Beautiful thing. So I think just in ending, I think it seems to me, from what I've just heard, that everybody agrees that our buildings are and need to be one of our biggest priorities moving forward, and providing both short-term and long-term solutions to fixing those buildings. And so I love the ideas, I love the forward thinking, but you're right, there's a lot of work that goes into this, and I think we owe it to everybody to try to put that work in and see what we can do. So on that note, if we don't have anything else, I will call a close to the school board meeting.
We're not doing non-public?
I thought we were going to non-public.
Well, right. I would call it right after we go into non-public, under 91-A:3, A. We will be not returning, other than to seal the minutes, but I will need a roll call to go into
I'll make
non-public.
the motion.
I need a motion first.
And I'll second it.
Thank you. Now you can ask for it.
Roll call.
Now can I get a roll call, please?
Michael Boucher,
Yes.
Kate Knutson,
Yes.
Shauna Manthorn,
Yes.
Kim Farah,
Yes.
Steve Finnegan,
Yes.
Kristen Savage,
Yes.
Mark Sherwood,
Yes.
Kim McCormick,
Yes.
Brian Boyle.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good night.
So you can stay for non-public.